Yeah.
Yeah, boy.
Here we go.
TNMP, the Nerdy Misfit Podcast, with your hosts, Connor O'Neill and Matthew Hughes.
What is up, people? And Matthew.
And me. Hi, it's me, the other guy.
Welcome to the Nerdy Misfit Podcast, a podcast talking about nerdy things.
With a bunch of misfits.
We the Misfits.
We the misfits.
You the Misfits.
We all part of the Misfit Island. How's it going today, Connor?
It's going. It's a humid day. Actually,
Yeah.
to be fair, most of the days have been very humid.
Yes. Today's
This past
especially, though.
Have you noticed it seems we're getting humid, hot weather, transitioning into a thunderstorm for maybe half an hour,
If that.
and then back to humid weather, and
Well,
then we'll get another thunderstorm in
exactly.
in like a good 3-4
Well, it's like
hours.
what? Yesterday, there was a giant heat warning all day, and then there was like a mini tornado warning, and it was like all this
Actually,
stuff.
Troy, who we've had on the podcast, actually had a tornado touchdown 20 minutes away from his house, apparently.
Dang.
So that's exciting.
It's not terrifying.
Yeah,
Is it exciting?
It's exciting in a different way.
Yeah. If I wasn't Troy.
In the way
Might be
in which you're
exciting.
scared.
Exactly.
So I guess terrifying could be an appropriate response.
Exactly.
But yeah, some pretty awful weather. I'm not a big fan of the humidity, personally.
No.
I don't like the idea of going out and having your skin be that sticky, sweaty feeling without
Yeah,
even
I was wearing a black
exerting
shirt and a
yourself.
black sweater today while I was outside. And I
Oh.
just have regrets.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I bet.
That's why when I left, I changed
Fair enough.
from freaking jeans and now I'm in shorts and a nice t-shirt.
Not that it makes much of a difference, really.
No, it really doesn't. The clothes are sticking to me regardless of... Anyways.
But yeah, we got a lot of things. Well, based on last podcast that would have been our review of potentially a show,
Potentially.
which has a lot of people up in arms. But we'll be talking about that in that episode. So we'll avoid that, and we'll
Stay
talk about a
tuned.
different TV show,
Exactly.
which you've done 2 videos on now on our YouTube channel. If you haven't yet subscribed, ring that notification bell.
Got to go above the number, but the number we got right now is pretty good too.
Yeah, we're at a good number.
69.
Nice.
Anyways, yeah, so I've done 2 YouTube videos. There was, I guess the first one was a teaser. Would it be a teaser technically? How would you classify that first one?
Yeah, it was a teaser trailer. It was the first reveal of the live action that was
Yeah.
at that one event that Netflix had.
Yeah,
in
the official teaser.
Brazil or somewhere? I can't remember where it was.
And then they actually, I'm assuming because of San Diego Comic-Con,
Yes, that was the official full trailer,
live action One Piece trailer.
which did have, I would say, kind of spoilers for people that have not seen One Piece.
Yeah, definitely.
But also gave people who are reading One Piece an idea of how much they're covering, and definitely
More than I expected,
you also get an idea of where some changes have already been made.
for sure.
So I thought we could take first a little bit of the podcast to talk about more of a deeper dive into it now that we've both had time to see it, maybe watch the trailer more than once, because if you don't know, those are Matt's first time reactions to the
Yep.
trailers. So maybe doesn't notice everything, or, you can't cover everything.
No, exactly.
So we thought we'd take a little bit of a deeper dive. Now, in terms of anime live actions, what would you say your experience is with them?
With anime live actions, not much. When I watched the Western Death Note.
Okay, Western Death Note.
That's a big one. That's a Netflix original.
That was bad.
Did not finish it. I know Ryuk looked great. Willem Dafoe as the voice of Ryuk, I thought was pretty good. Good
That was
casting.
probably the only good part.
I
Ryuk.
agree. That was it. And that's my only good thing about it. I never finished it because I did not like the way they wrote Light.
Yeah, he was no longer Light.
He was, and I pardon my French, a little bitch way too early on. Like the fact that he got scared Ryuk and I think it's like he hid right under the desk at the classroom. I was like,
You didn't like that?
I didn't like that.
like the idea that what is her name? Misa? I can't remember.
I think it's Misa, yeah. Something like that.
But she was basically Light.
Yeah.
So if they were going to do that, honestly, I would have just preferred that she just get the Death Note.
Just switch it.
Obviously, she already has a Death Note, but just
Yeah.
switch them entirely. Have her Death Note be Ryuk's and have her
Exactly.
lead the story. Because they made her out to be the genius, conniving, manipulative person, which we all know is Light in the manga. There's no confusing it.
No, gosh no.
And yeah, it wasn't great. You've also seen Tokyo Ghoul, the first movie.
Yeah, which I mean that was different because that was a Japanese adaptation.
Correct.
Which I feel like is a very big difference because
they're usually worse.
They're usually worse on like a cringy ass.
Yeah, in CGI and
yeah. Because Japanese does a lot of them. There's Attack on Titan.
There's Attack on Titan, which are all awful. The Fullmetal Alchemist one, which was also
there's a
bad.
Zom 100 one coming out.
Bleach.
Yeah, they have all of the adaptations.
If there's any popularity, it has a live action.
Yeah. But to be fair, the Tokyo Ghoul one was not terrible.
It might be one of the better ones I've seen.
Because for those who don't know, Connor and I watched it in the theaters.
But I thought the CGI was actually relatively clean. It followed the story pretty accurately.
Yeah. I found that ironic that the CGI was clean in comparison to the manga, where it's so confusing from time to time of who's tentacle.
Yeah, that's what you want.
Yeah.
That is what you want from a different
Adaptation.
form of media.
100%.
For like, and I think we talked about this in terms of manga to anime, which is that's your expectation should be not. I know a lot of people are very particular about how they want,
Correct.
if they're a big fan of a series, how they want it to be represented when it comes to a live action or an anime, whatever the change ends up being. But you can't have panel for panel because that's not how the story, a real story flows.
You know how to get panel per panel? You want panel per panel? Watch Record of Ragnarok. That thing's a slideshow.
Or read the manga.
Or read the manga.
And just stay on the manga. Because what I expect when I see an anime or a live action is that they're expanding upon the panels.
Correct.
Because we don't see an entire fight in panels. We see
clips
of the fight in panels.
Yeah.
So I want to see a well thought out, well choreographed fight.
Correct.
That's what I want to see. So for me, going into Tokyo Ghoul, for example, is I'm expecting, yes, sometimes, especially in Tokyo Ghoul Re, the manga, things get a little confusing. Characters start looking a lot alike. Cognates are going crazy, and you're like, I have no idea whose cognate is fighting and what's going on with them. So the expectation is that they're going to do that in the anime or potentially live action, and it's going to be a lot more clear and gives you something you couldn't get from the manga, I guess. Correct. Is what I'm trying to say. Which sometimes people do really well when you look at something like Demon Slayer. They understand, basically, they just understand the assignment.
Yep. That's why Demon Slayer is so popular, too.
Well, yeah, if Ufotable didn't kill the animation, it would not be nearly as big as it is now.
100%.
But they just have really well thought out, well choreographed fights that people really love. It's animated beautifully.
Definitely.
And it just makes it better.
Yeah.
Honestly, we've both read the Demon Slayer manga at this point, and I would say, the anime is better than the manga. It's one of those cases where 100%.
It's a very rare, but I agree. Even with the arc that just finished last season, that arc is probably one of my least favorite arcs that I read in the manga, because it's just kind of happens.
At least
it's
a
very
quick
slow, but it is a quick arc for sure.
When you're reading, you just fly through it.
Yeah, does not feel long.
The fight scenes are still good.
Yeah, no, for sure. But I think definitely that helps the anime. That helps the story is the fighting.
Yeah, so to go on your point, the live action of Tokyo Ghoul did a really good job with the cognates, and you understood what was happening, evolved the story, but also expanded upon parts that, not in a way that changes, but, like I said, it adds something new to the panels that you can't just get from reading a manga.
And that also goes hand in hand outside of just manga adaptations, even like book adaptations. There's some good book adaptation. There's some not so good book adaptations.
That's fair. And books are the same. You can only some books might be a little bit more descriptive of fights.
Yeah, but still.
At the same time, you still need to portray it on screen in a different way for an audience to experience that. The
thing that I'm kind of excited when it comes to the One Piece thing, and this kind of goes back to another show that not the Netflix did, Hulu did, but it's a show called Looking for Alaska. It's based on a John Green novel. So they did a really good adaptation of it. And when they wanted to add extra things for certain characters or whatever, they worked with John Green. And it was like, is there anything you wanted to add to the story that you took out? And he was like, yeah, this, and this. So then they added it into the show. So it's like...
Yeah, it's kind of like has his approval.
Yeah, exactly. Which knowing that Oda is working...
Yeah, picking back on that. Oda, from what I understand from sources and reading, is that Oda has been heavily involved with the series. The story, and for sure. A lot of stuff had to be approved. Now... I'm not going to say take my word here. Definitely do your own research. Always do your own research and things. But from some of the stuff I've been seeing, it sounds like a lot of stuff had to be okayed by him in order to be in the show.
It's his baby.
I'm not saying he okayed all the CG, but I'm assuming he had a big part in casting. He had a big part in the anime casting for voice dub for English and Japanese. So he definitely loves One Piece. Shocker. Guy has written over 1,000 chapters of this series.
It's
has
whatever.
over 1,000 anime episodes. Who's also heavily involved in a lot of the anime stuff too.
Yeah.
And movies, etc. He sounds like he had to approve a lot of stuff, which gives you a little bit more confidence. I saw a really bad take. Someone saw Shanks and like, this isn't Shanks. Shanks should be this. Okay, that's fair if that's how you feel Shanks should look.
That's the thing.
But if it's true that Oda was there and heavily involved with a lot of the casting, that's Shanks.
Yeah, that's
Like,
the thing. Is like I respect that aspect because if Oda had that much help with it,
and I see a lot of people very confused as to who Shanks was because a lot of people are saying it's not Shanks because they're thinking post time skip Yonko Shanks.
Oh yeah,
that's Shanks. People don't seem to understand Shanks was not a Yonko when he first met Luffy.
No,
he was not a Yonko yet.
No, gosh no.
And I think I don't know any of the actors' names, but whoever they casted as Shanks, he really gave off that friendly look. And kind of when you think of the first scene in one of the first scenes in One Piece where Shanks gets alcohol dumped on him by the mountain bandits,
he's just having a fun time.
He's having a fun time, but he doesn't look menacing.
No, exactly.
A bunch of mountain bandits don't feel scared by doing
Shanks.
that to Shanks.
Exactly.
And I think that's perfect. That's a perfect
That's
look.
exactly what it should be.
Right?
Shanks is not a scary character. I mean, he's not a scary character, but he's not an intimidating character at the beginning of One Piece.
Yeah, and so a mountain bandit would. And
exactly.
Obviously for Shanks and his crew, they know that they're not scared of those mountain bandits.
Exactly.
So I think if you think early One Piece, the Shanks casting makes sense. Does he potentially need to get a little bit more jacked and menacing if the show continues on till past the time skip?
Probably. Definitely.
Yes, because when you see Shanks in the war arc,
yeah,
he looks a lot different.
Just a little bit.
A lot different. Not just because he's missing an arm. But yeah, that was just one really bad take I saw. Where the other thing is we haven't seen them talk. We don't even know how that Shanks acting is.
Exactly. We just see him.
He could be great. He
Exactly.
could be bad. I'm not saying he can't be bad. He definitely could be bad. But, we have to see some episodes, which leads me into the question of, based on your initial watch-throughs of the trailers, how are you feeling? How's the hype scale? What are you expecting? What do you want out of this show?
See, the thing is that because knowing Oda is so much work, and I think One Piece or Netflix also doesn't want to mess it up either. Like they took their time with this because I think it got pushed back once.
Yeah, and I do think you don't take on One Piece without being we want to do more than one season.
Exactly. So I think I don't want to get my expectations up too much. I know people don't necessarily like some of the character designs, but honestly, I'm pretty content. Like from what I've seen from the acting, I see that there's chemistry between Zoro and Sanji.
Goldie Roger looked really good.
Love the mustache.
And the grin at the end.
Exactly. Like it
that
felt
like maniacal, I don't care that
Exactly.
I'm dying, I'm screwing you over, world government grin was great.
even like I know people were like, again, I don't know, the
I saw
brief
some
chemistry.
Mihawk hate because of his beard, but I didn't think it was too bad. That's Sanji's eyebrows, that's too much.
Yeah.
Mihawk's beard, I don't think you're going too far. I think that's still okay. It definitely helps him stand out. Sword did look a little...
Could have been just the angle though.
Could be the angle, but also it is a very ridiculous...
Yeah.
This is something we've talked about where the One Piece live action... Like, One Piece is a ridiculous series.
Yeah, that's why the way like Arlong looks, I'm like, okay.
I think Arlong probably could have looked better, but he also could have looked a lot worse.
I think my thing is maybe Arlong could have been a little bit more buff, like a little bit more built.
Yeah, I just think he could have looked a lot worse, so I don't know if that's just having low expectations of the show in general, but he looks acceptable.
Yeah, no, definitely. He looks acceptable. I think that's the best way to put it.
But yeah, I mean, I would say the trailer did get me a little excited, where I'm actually, part of me is like, oh yeah, I'm gonna watch it.
I'm gonna watch it.
But
even like,
but also part of me feels like I'm gonna watch episode 1 and be like, oh,
can't believe I've just watched that kind of thing.
I'm gonna watch it, but
Yeah.
now I'm like,
skeptical. I think the CGI for him stretching looks fine.
looks fine. I saw a lot of people talking about how a lot of the CGI scenes are in the dark because it's a lot easier to cover up kind of errors or cleanliness of CG, like it helps hide it, which is fair, but there are scenes in the light.
Yeah, like, I get it, obviously, with the buggy scene, right?
Buggy scene, I think Luffy's Gatling's also in the dark.
Yeah.
Stuff like the first time we saw him do the just regular pistol was also in dark. So that's fair. Some of Sanji's kicks looked a little bit on the faker side.
But again, it's dramatic, right?
Yeah,
like it's supposed to be. I think the chemistry between the cast seemed fine.
The cast, I really enjoyed the Straw Hat casting overall. I think all of them seem pretty solid.
Yeah, like even you can already feel the chemistry or lack thereof in a way between Zoro and Sanji. Like it's
their combatantness.
Yeah,
I like.
Even
Speaking
like
of
Nami
which,
being Nami, like it's
so
pretty good.
In terms of set, the Baratier is not a ship in the middle of the ocean. It is a docked thing.
Yeah,
which I'm sure just makes it easier for filming and whatnot.
For sure, and I think it just
you have to understand
story for now.
This is one of those cases where it's just the metrics are hard.
Yeah,
to do in an actual live action.
The way I also look at it is like, okay, it's docked instead of being in the middle. Does that really take away from the story a good amount?
Well, it seems like the fishmen are on the Baratier.
Yeah, I do see
that.
This
is where we there's a bit of a divergent from which I only have one issue with, but we haven't seen the show, so I don't know if it's even going to be an issue, which is it seems like they're getting rid of Don Krieg.
Yeah.
Right? In replacing Don, not necessarily replacing him 1-to-1, but having that Fishman arc be the big fight that it ends off with this season.
And we'll see. Like, again.
We'll see. Maybe Don Krieg is in it. And the only issue I have with that is I don't really like Don Krieg and his... The only thing that helps build in the manga and anime is Don Krieg is bragged about as having this massive crew, this fleet.
Yeah.
This massive fleet. And he's gone to the Grand Line, which is where they're supposed to be journeying. And that's what we're hyping up, the Grand Line. And he gets wrecked, his entire fleet, by one guy. With not even like a real boat.
No, exactly.
Like a real ship, let's be honest. It's like a dinghy. And it's by Mihawk. And that shows this. That's supposed to show us the strength of some of the people in the Grand Line.
Mm-hmm.
So that potentially, I'm not going to say is because we don't know.
Yeah, exactly.
But that could be missing.
Yeah. I mean, I don't think we've seen all the characters that we're going to see, obviously, because, again, they're covering a lot in the first season here.
That's the other thing. How many chapters in total are we covering?
Yeah. I don't know. From this shot here, the Mihawk sword doesn't look terrible. Like, it looks obviously a little dramatic, but, like...
Yeah, that's fair. I think...
The good old Jolly Roger, I found that. I feel like that's more... I mean, I know that's a scene, but it's a good...
It's not an Easter egg, but it is. You know, it's nice to see that's straight out of the manga, straight out of the anime. Luffy drawing his version of his Jolly Roger poorly, and then it gets fixed. But Arlong Park is up to chapter 95.
Do we know how many episodes this is going to be?
I would assume they probably released it.
12, 20?
I haven't checked. I'm assuming 10 is my guess, because when you think of HBO shows or some of the bigger Netflix shows, it's usually on that 10 for 1 hour each ballpark.
Yeah. Let's see here.
But 95 roughly chapters, you can say, because I'm assuming we saw the potential finishing move from Luffy, right? Mm-hmm. So, but I've never seen a live action of One Piece. I have no idea how much you can cover in a still feels satisfying way per episode. And they're all hour long, right?
I don't know if the runtime is on them, but there's 8 episodes.
Probably roughly 50 to an hour.
I'm assuming, yeah.
Yeah, I have no idea if it still feels like the story is paced well, it might feel fine.
Yeah.
And yeah, there's obviously CGI, and some of the CGI looks cleaner than other parts of this. But that's just television.
Exactly.
In general. And I still am on the fence of, I think One Piece, it's not truly a great live action show. Just, it is a very wacky show, and they have obviously done a decent job with some of the changes they've made. Usopp and his nose, for example, is a massive change from the source material, but that's because you have to. Mm-hmm. How do you not?
It just doesn't, like, because I don't want to say it would take away, but it would take away.
Yeah. It's tough. It's tough. Obviously, we haven't seen the show yet.
Yeah.
So
It comes out the end of August. So
we'll definitely be talking about it when the show's done.
Definitely.
I'm sure we'll talk about it the first week, and then I'm sure we'll talk about the complete show and our overall thoughts. I'm not going in hoping to like it.
No.
I feel like I should mention that. I'm not going in being like, I want this to be good, or I'm just going in to hopefully be entertained and see a different take on One Piece.
Based on the episode names, I can kind of see, like, from a standpoint of what the episodes are going to be about. Like, first episode's obviously Romance Dawn, surprise, surprise. Second episode is The Man in the Straw Hat.
Okay.
Third episode, Tell No Tales.
Yep.
Okay. Fourth episode, The Pirates Are Coming.
Oh.
I wonder who's going to be introduced that episode. And then episode 5, Edith Berarti. And then episode 6, The Chef and the Chore Boy. And episode 7, The Girl with the Sawfish Tattoo.
Nami.
And then episode 8 is Worst in the East.
Yeah, which is our long.
Yeah.
So, yeah, seems like that's just the big finale.
Yeah, kind of.
But yeah, I'm not going in hoping it's the best thing ever or to be wowed, but I'm going in hoping it doesn't completely suck.
No, and I don't think it will completely suck. I think there'll be moments from like hardcore fans being like, this is not how it should be.
I'm also just not going to be nitpicky as some.
Exactly.
A lot of the community seems to be just be nitpicking every little thing. Like I mentioned, the Shanks casting. We haven't even seen the guy talk.
Yeah.
Haven't heard him talk or do anything. It's basically a still image of the dude. And we're like, nope, can't be that. Nope, he's not my Shanks. Okay,
yeah, and you're like, well, it's not
technically none of the
MLB
Shanks are your Shanks. They're all Oda Shanks.
Exactly. Sorry to break it to you, kid.
Like, you don't own Shanks. Or any of the characters for that matter. But we'll see. We'll see what happens. I'm optimistic.
I think optimistic is a good word.
I think it'll be better than Death Note.
I mean, that's not really a high bar, but yeah. I think it will be as well.
It's not a high bar, but
no.
The West hasn't given us a reason to think that we should have a high bar.
So I agree. Moving on slightly from the One Piece show, we wanted to give a little bit of update too. Is a bunch of episodes ago we talked a little bit about the One Piece trading card game.
Yeah, that's true. We've been playing it a lot more the past few weeks.
Exactly, and the more we play it, the more
getting more used to the rules,
Exactly.
more used to the style of play. And how are you feeling about the?
I think it's pretty good. I think it's fun because now you and I are also seeing how because we've only played with structure decks. Which, if you guys are interested in getting into the One Piece trading card game, I'd recommend just sticking with the structure decks.
They're fun.
They're fun.
And they're comparative to the packs.
Individual packs, super cheap. It should not be one structure deck.
For us, it's basically 2 packs are the equivalent of buying one structure deck, which is
insane.
Just not reasonable at all. So
I think it's fun, too, because if you like certain characters, then there's a structure deck.
If you want some better decks, I would recommend there's a Big Mom deck that came out.
Yep.
I think that's deck 7.
Yep, deck 7.
And then the Eustace Kid deck, which is the worst generation, I believe. Those decks are pretty solid, work well off each other, and have multiple mechanics across the game. Where some of the decks feel like they're only really doing like one thing.
Yeah.
So at least the decks are covering a little bit. So they're better, but they also help you learn more of the game.
100%.
I think.
It's also interesting too because of the different stylistic ways each character plays, like your leader and your other ones. Like every deck that we've played kind of feels unique. Where some decks are like...
a lot of them are focused on a different
You don't need a
style.
lot of Don cards to start certain decks. Well, like the Kaido one...
Yeah, some are like earlier decks, some are
lot.
later. Some are focused on straight up Dawn removal,
Yep.
like the Kaido deck. And then there's some that are focused on life, similar like the Big Mom deck.
Yeah.
So it is cool. Way to learn mechanics, a cheaper way to learn mechanics,
Yep.
and just buy and play, basically. On top of that, the art is pretty cool.
fun.
There's some art I'm not a big fan of, which is usually the anime art for some of the cards is not the best. I love the art that's taken straight from panels in manga, and it's colored, and you can still see the bubble for the text.
Yeah.
Those are some of my favorite.
The wanted poster ones are one of my favorites.
Wanted poster, which is a rarity from.
Yeah.
You're not going to get them in the structure deck, at least not yet.
No.
Maybe they'll add one later down the line, but as of right now, you're not going to get those from the structure deck. But that's also a cool look and works so well for a card because a card basically is a wanted poster, just a small version of it.
Exactly.
Has a window. It's perfect. But where do you rank it in some of the TCGs? So for the people that maybe don't know, what type of TCGs have you played? Do you like?
So I've played a lot of like deck building games, which are obviously aside from TCGs, but in a way it's kind of you build your deck and you kind of fly your deck out kind of thing. Otherwise, I've only really played Pokemon and Yu-Gi-Oh! I've tried Magic a couple times. Other ones I have played in the past was about 6 years ago. They did a Skylanders TCG for a little bit.
Oh, yeah, I remember that.
Played that for a bit. That was pretty fun. They got the new Disney one coming out soon. I'm hoping to try out the My Hero Academia one eventually, just to
See what it's like.
Exactly. But honestly, I think in understanding, probably put it under Pokemon. Pokemon, I feel like, relatively is easy to understand. Yu-Gi-Oh! Will always be the most confusing thing.
Yeah,
TCGs.
as someone who is an enjoyer of it, I would
second that.
Say that I agreed. Yu-Gi-Oh! Is a very, very, very difficult to get into if you haven't.
You kind of have to like go, if you're not keeping up, you kind of want to go through the generations to understand it, in my opinion, because I don't know the whole new thing that's happening.
Yeah,
with
there's a Switch Monsters, game, right? Legacy of the
Duelist, which helped me understand.
Yeah, almost a good way of learning. Yeah, okay, there's maybe not a ban list or anything that will help you in that terms of competitive Yu-Gi-Oh! But you can play like Gen 1 Yu-Gi-Oh! And work your way up
through the story of the anime.
Yeah, and you work your way up through the complications of Yu-Gi-Oh!
Regular
you get
monsters,
to synchros, you get to XZs, you get to links.
Yeah, for the pendulum summoning.
Exactly. So you can work your way through and learn slowly.
Exactly.
That's probably a good way of explaining it.
But I think, the One Piece is up there for me. I mean, I'd put it alongside Pokemon. Like, Pokemon's obviously the one I've been playing with the longest.
Fair.
But again, it's one of those things, and it kind of goes with hand in hand with a lot of TCGs, is that it may seem stressful at start because it's a brand new rule system. But as long as you once you get the hang of it, and then you're good to go, and you usually enjoy it.
It feels like if you know some of the, I'm going to call them the big three.
Magic, Yu-Gi-Oh,
Magic,
Pokemon.
Yeah. I feel like those have the most players. If you know how to play Pokemon / Magic, which also have a lot of similarities, I feel like most card games are easier to pick up.
Yeah.
Yu-Gi-Oh! Is just its own beast, which is what makes it the hardest to learn.
Because it doesn't have energy.
But it's also what makes it the most annoying if you're a Yu-Gi-Oh! Player and you're like, hey, I'm going to try this new... And you're like, what do you mean I can't do all of this stuff in one turn? Yeah. Which is... Yu-Gi-Oh! Is very fast-paced and very weirdly balanced because it kind of isn't.
Yep.
In its own crazy way. Where One Piece, for me, I think One Piece might be my favorite, more balanced card game.
Yeah, I know we were talking about that actually a little bit.
And one of the reasons is in Magic and Pokemon, I say this based on those are two that I have played. I've played Yu-Gi-Oh! I've played Hearthstone. I've played Legends of Runeterra.
Oh, I guess I've played some of those as well.
Which I feel like the one thing I dislike about Pokemon and Magic, which there are cards that help you get around this as well when you consider building decks, which is you need to draw those cards that give you the ability to you think of like the energy and stuff. Hey, I need my Pokemon to attack, but I need 2 lightning energy, and if you don't get the electricity, the electric type energies, then I do like the more. One Piece feels like they took those TCGs that are only online, like Runeterra, like Hearthstone, and made it a tabletop version of the game. Yeah. Because you're building mana, you can't over commit on a turn. You're stuck. You're waiting for the mana system to work your way in.
Yeah, exactly.
So that's one thing I personally really like about it is, it's definitely slower. There's no getting around that. It's a much slower game. But in a way, it feels really nice and balanced with you and your opponent. You both can't attack on your first turn. Then you start building your mana and you're going. And there are decks, obviously, that are more focused on trying to hit early. And there are decks that want to reach the 10-don phase and really start dropping massive hits. Massive, crazy characters. But overall, the balance, it does take longer, but I like the way the game flows, I guess.
I agree.
And it's cool. A lot of them, the newer decks especially, the themes of the character cards are actually very similar to the themes that they actually are. For example, Big Mom's deck is focused on either taking life to give yourself or taking life away from something, which is kind of very similar to her Devil Fruit, where she can give life to something or take life. Mm-hmm. And that's kind of what her deck, at least the Big Mom cards we've seen, are focused on, which is, if you're a One Piece fan, it's kind of nice to see that, Carter Curry, a lot of his cards are, I can foresee stuff. I can foresee what's in a life card and stuff.
They've definitely done that where the game is inspired, like the stylistic choices are definitely based on the characters to a good amount.
Yeah, I 100% agree. So for me, I'm always going to love Yu-Gi-Oh! Because that's like nostalgia, and I've played it
for sure
at actual card shops and locals and whatnot. But I do really, really enjoy the One Piece, and I highly recommend it if you want a fun, especially since Yu-Gi-Oh! For the most part, it's starting to get better, but it's always been Yu-Gi-Oh! Structure decks are just awful.
Yes.
Where One Piece structure decks are not. They
can go on their own.
They're usable decks. So that's kind of my take on the One Piece TCG. I definitely think if you want to try to get into one, you can buy 2 structure decks and have someone come and just learn and play, and it's a pretty fun time.
As of right now, I believe there's 7 decks out. Beginning of August or so, mid-August, we're going to be getting 2 more decks, a Luffy-based deck and a Yamato-based deck. So we'll give you a brief review of those later on when they eventually come out, because I think we'll just end up grabbing them.
For sure. But yeah, let's move on from the One Piece TCG. I guess this is a One Piece episode.
Yeah, at this point,
it's been hijacked.
Yeah,
it's been hijacked. This is our second time I think we've had an episode just
go off, not off the rails, but like we were like, yeah, we'll do this, this, and this, and this in this episode, and then it just doesn't happen.
Okay, so let me just ask this then, since we've talked about it, and it's in the realm of kind of what we talked about. Maybe we'll have this as a little teaser for a future episode. Mm-hmm. As someone who reads a lot more books than me, what is your favorite adaptation? Let's just do it as a teaser. Say your favorite, maybe a quick little blurb about why.
Oh my gosh.
And then your least favorite and why.
Oh, I can tell you my least favorite easily. That's Percy Jackson. Worst adaptation, okay? The reason being is because like you look at the Hunger Games, you look at Harry Potter.
Yeah.
You look at
for sure.
Right? You're like, "Oh, cool. Let's take Harry Potter for example, okay? 7 books. They make 8 movies. They split the last book into 2 movies, okay? Hunger Games, 3 books, 4 movies. They split the last book into Maze Runner trilogy, 3 movies, 3 books, 3 movies. Percy Jackson, 5 books in the series. Let's make it into a trilogy.
Ah, yes. Let's squeeze everything in instead of the one time you're like, no, be greedy.
Yeah, be greedy. I don't care. Make an extra movie. No, 5 books. We're going to move into a trilogy. We're going to base the first movie off of a single chapter that happens essentially in the first book. Because those who don't know the movie and have read the book or vice versa, the movie revolves around the fact that Percy, Grover, and Annabeth go find these little pearls so they can get home from the underworld when they go to the underworld. There is a single chapter in the first book where something happens and he goes in the water and a water spirit gives him those. And that is it.
Weird.
The movie is based on a lie. But anyways, that's definitely the worst one because that irks me a lot. The first movie was okay overall, minus the fact that that's a huge plot point and they fight a Hydra, which does not happen. And then the second one is just aggressively bad. Just bad.
Okay.
But anyways, yeah, I can go rant for long on that, but we're gonna let that go.
Future episode.
Future episode of just Matt ranting about Percy Jackson forever. Best adaptation. There's one that comes to mind, like a couple. Like Looking for Alaska, great adaptation. I love that they talked to the author, kind of what I mentioned earlier about bringing extra things in. Really good adaptation on that aspect for a show.
Original Lord of the Rings trilogy.
Lord of the Rings trilogy is really good. Another big one, which a lot of people probably don't realize that's a good adaptation, is The Lion, the Witch, the Wardrobe.
Yeah, that's fair.
That is overall a pretty good adaptation. Enough that a lot of the dialogue was taken from the book directly. Like the whole, I think it's like chapter 4 in the book maybe, or it's in the movie near the beginning where Lucy sees Mr. Tumnus for the first time.
Like levels of you can't screw this up if you just follow this.
Exactly. Because Lion, the Witch, the Wardrobe is a pretty standard story.
Yeah.
But yeah, the dialogue between Mr. Tumnus and Lucy the first time when they meet in like the snow or whatever, that is line per line from the actual pages.
Okay, fair.
And I'm like, that right there is how you do a good book adaptation. You got the dialogue in the book, just use it.
Yeah, that's fair.
Because for some dang reason, a lot of people don't do that. And I just don't understand. Like the occasional line, which is usually Easter eggs or something.
Producers
But,
or
like,
higher ups in the chain, they know better.
They know better. Yeah, they're like, here's a script. It's directly from this source material. And they're like, nah, we're going to rewrite all of this.
But what if?
But what if, hear me out, what if a single chapter is the whole movie?
What if we just didn't do that and we had a Hydra?
Genius idea. Genius. But yeah, so one of the better adaptations, Lion the Witch Robe, the original Lord of the Rings trilogy, Looking for Alaska. Overall, pretty. Another good one, actually, Lemony Snicket's Series of Unfortunate Events, the Netflix show.
The Netflix show, not the original.
Not the...
That suffers from the same thing.
That's the same thing. Yeah, 3 books in one movie.
Shoving too much in one movie.
Aggressive.
To be fair, not the biggest books.
No.
So I can see more than one book.
Yeah, but 3 might have pushed up. I mean, Jim Carrey, Count Olaf, Chef's Kiss, loved every moment of it. But yeah, the Series of Unfortunate Events TV show, I think they did it justice in the sense that they gave each book 2 episodes.
Yeah, that's
and each
fair.
episode, I think, was between 46 to like 54, I think. And I think that was good. They added, obviously, a little bit of extra lore to fill in because, obviously, the first few books are kind of smaller. But it still worked.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think that was a really well-done TV show. A bad adaptation that comes to my mind for books that I did read and was hoping would be good is the Aragon series.
Yeah, oh, yeah. Forgot about that. Which, fun fact about that, I found out that there's a new book coming out in that series, fun fact. Comes out later this year. It takes place,
everything's coming back, man.
Everything's coming back. Comes out later this year. It takes place 1 year after the end of the series. But anyways, continue.
But yeah, that's definitely one that highlights for when I was growing up. And like, I wasn't a huge reader, but every now and then I would read a book. And then if I heard that there was a movie or something coming out, I was excited. And then that was one of the ones where I was like, what did I just watch?
I always think about this too is there's a 4-pack of DVDs. Like it's a 4-pack DVD. You see it at Walmart sometimes or like wherever you get your DVDs from. And it's a 4-pack. And I like to call it the worst of the worst. And it's literally Aragon, the first Percy Jackson movie, City of Ember.
Oh.
And I think the 4th one is The Seeker, which I don't know if you know that book
who's
series. Who's
buying these?
But I literally look at that and I'm like, yep, this is the worst of the young adult fiction movies. Here's a 4-pack for you of the worst of the worst.
Gods of the worst.
Exactly. Terrible. But anyways.
Continuing our One Piece now.
Yeah.
That I think we'll do a deep dive discussion into more book adaptations.
Yeah.
Instead of, we talk a lot about anime adaptations, whether that be manga to anime/manga to live action. So I think maybe we give something that Matt has a lot more expertise in, but we can do, maybe Matt and I will do some research. We'll watch some movies.
Yeah.
Read some books.
Exactly. And there's also the reverse too. We've seen, because a lot of the books I read too are reverse sometimes.
That's fair.
Or a different adaptation too.
Gets created into
books.
books.
Yeah, novelization. Because a really good novelization of a movie I read, as bad as the movie was, the novelization.
Any Star Wars book, honestly.
Star Wars is really good because The Last Jedi, as a lot of people weren't the biggest fan of that movie, one of the opening chapters is about Luke living on the planet with his wife.
Yeah, it's giving you more.
It just gives you a little bit. I mean, the whole big thing that you know this from years ago is my biggest pet peeve with Force Awakens is how does Poe get off Jakku?
Oh, yeah.
The running gag for years with me. And if you read the novelization, you find out that he gets off Jakku. You either do that, or if you want to know another way to find out, you play the Lego Star Wars Force Awakens, because there's a whole thing around Poe getting off Jakku. But anyways.
Back on our One Piece train.
back off to the...
So, as of recording this, spoilers alert, if you're not past chapter like 1,000 of One Piece.
Yep.
And episode 1,000. But we are building up to what a lot of people are trying to hype up as like the biggest anime moment ever. Which, yeah, in my opinion, as a massive... I feel like you can back me up here. I'm a massive One Piece fan.
What?
I love One Piece.
No.
But there's no way this is going to be one of the biggest moments in anime because you have to be 1,000 and whatever episodes into the anime.
No one's just going to skip all those chapters, all those episodes.
I've seen all the memes of people being like, oh, you only 18 days. It only takes 18 days to catch up to One Piece and you could be there. But
I can't say too much. I read like 3/4 of One Piece in 3 weeks, but that's also
you
reading
also
versus...
crushed out a lot of it when you were watching too.
Yeah, exactly.
And anyway, so it's the Gear 5, which we've apparently gone past, like, who even cares about spoilers? Like, they've already revealed what he looks like. To be fair, the
There's
manga
statue,
fans and
there's
manga
merch.
things have already shown it.
Exactly.
There's statues, like you said. And he's just in the trailer. Like they just aren't even hiding it.
Yeah. I don't think it's going to break the internet.
I think it could be big.
Yeah, oh, it's going to be big. Don't get me wrong.
But I don't think it's going to be break the internet big because there's just not as many people caught up to an 1,000 episode show as there would be someone watching episode 19 of Demon Slayer.
Exactly. Which equally is hyped in a way.
Was hype? No, not equally because no one knew Demon Slayer was good.
That's true.
Episode 19 is what changed Demon Slayer's life.
I can't argue with that because
I don't want to sound
100%
elitist
right.
here or anything, but I remember watching Demon Slayer when it first started airing with my friend Evan. We were watching it together, and we were also wasn't watching it with Gray, but Gray was also watching it, and we discussed with him, and we were like, "This show's pretty cool. I really like the art style. It's really different. The opening's a banger. You know, the classic stuff of being like, this could be
100%.
This could be a show of the season. Like a sleeper show. And I did not expect it to be this good kind of thing." I remember the thing that got me hyped for Demon Slayer was I saw it was by Ufotable. And I just came off watching Dororo, which is a samurai-esque show with demons. And I was like, oh, and part of me was like, oh, another demon samurai.
Oh, of course,
that I'm
another
watching.
one.
But the art style was very unique. The whole different stylistic choice with the effects of the breathing was cool. And so gave it a try. Was enjoying it for sure.
Mm-hmm.
And then episode 19 happened, and obviously it was insane. And I remember that was like everything changed when the Fire Nation attacked. Level of like,
It's so true.
all of a sudden, everyone was like,
Everyone.
"You gotta watch this show. You gotta watch this show," and it just exploded into not just people that watched anime. It exploded into the mainstream, which made it a little annoying when you start seeing creators like Ninja, like at the time, who was massive, saying this is the greatest anime ever made, and it was like, okay, let's
That's a bold statement.
let's calm down. It was a fantastic episode, but best anime ever made. Okay, like the amount of
Casual
delusional
scrubs.
takes just exploded from
Yeah.
people that probably haven't even seen that many anime.
Yep.
Is it the best anime you ever seen? Probably, if you're saying that. But it was just insane to see. I've never been on like that wave of, oh, the show is decent, might be a sleeper show. And then it has this episode and it just explodes. I don't think I'm ever going to see something as crazy as that ever again.
Because that didn't just peak the anime; it also peaked manga sales like that.
Oh, it did. It did what
changed.
the job of any anime is, which is
Exactly.
to sell the manga.
Yeah, 100%.
And it did it more than
Overnight.
Oh,
almost.
more than Ufotable or Jump. Like anyone could have ever imagined for sales of that series. And obviously, the sales the book was like 15 volumes, 16 volumes in,
Yeah.
and people were buying volume 1 to 16. This is how not popular the manga was. It was like a mid-tier in Shonen Jump. It wasn't breaking those.
It was in
like,
a nice little middle area.
it was like in a safe spot where people were definitely reading and enjoying it, but it wasn't It wasn't destroying One Piece. It wasn't destroying those higher up, like Haikyuu and stuff that were still going on. It wasn't crushing those. But then all of a sudden, episode 19 airs. People start watching the show more till the end of till 24, and then manga people are just buying volumes 1 to 16. You know, because that's how much was out. Usually, when One Piece has the most sales in a year, the thing that makes it impressive is that they're only releasing like 3 or 4 volumes,
if that.
right? In this case, people were buying 15 volumes, and it's multiple people, thousands, hundreds of thousands of people
Yep.
buying 15 volumes at a time because that's how much is out. So the numbers are just 15x'd. Right? In terms of
messed.
normal numbers. And I don't know if we'll ever see something as crazy as that. That is just, the numbers were ridiculous. And the craziest part is the manga still ended in a fashion in which the author kind of wanted it to go.
Yeah, which is weird, but I know what you mean.
It's just the sales came so much later in the cycle of the story, which usually when something like that would pop off, maybe they're not close to the end and they're like, oh, I'm going to keep going. I have more ideas or more I want to share about the world. Yes, some would say, and I agree, that the ending did feel a little rushed. And we know that there was a situation going on with the author.
Yeah.
But at that point in which how popular the show is, I feel like she could have easily taken a break and come back, and with how well it was doing, I don't think the people higher up at Jump would care. They'll be like,
No.
oh, well, you come back when you need to.
But I think when you're an author like that and you're riding the hype train, you're like, oh, I gotta. Like, I feel like there's like a.
It was nice that she didn't feel that pressure.
Yeah.
That she still ended the way she wanted to.
Exactly.
In her own way, and maybe not to a T the way she wanted to, because maybe some parts were rushed, but it didn't affect the pacing she was doing because of the sales.
Agreed.
But that's just an example of how the point of anime is to sell something.
Yeah. Plain
right?
and simple.
And I even forgot what point we were trying to make, but we were talking about the One Piece hype, right? And
Yeah.
I just don't think One Piece this episode will hit that level of hype.
No, I don't think the hype will be there because of how much
Transformation
is going
also
in.
nowhere near as iconic as Dragon Ball. People can say that they want it to be and that maybe it is to them, but Dragon Ball is probably one of, if not the most iconic transformations in shonen manga.
Definitely.
So I'm not a big Dragon Ball fan either, personally.
But you know.
But the first Super Saiyan transformation is insane. There's a reason it keeps happening in its own series.
Yeah.
And there's different forms of it because people love it. They eat
go
it
crazy
up.
for it.
They eat that shit up.
Yep.
But yeah, so I mean, I'll be watching the episode. I'm sure Matt will be watching the episode. We'll see how the adaptation does. One thing that they thankfully didn't really spoil yet is the drums that you're supposed to hear. You know, the thumps that you get in the manga when reading. We'll see how that's done for the OST.
Fingers crossed.
Fingers crossed that it's done well. I would love to also see. It didn't really look like it, but I would love to see like a different art style, animation style, like almost akin to the Tom and Jerry-esque theme that Oda was going for with the transformation. Yeah. I would love to see that. But we're getting ahead of ourselves.
We'll find out, so stay tuned. We'll definitely be chatting about that.
We'll definitely be chatting about it in a future episode.
Yeah,
maybe
a few episodes away.
Maybe we find a One Piece fan to bring on to talk about it.
Exactly. We got a few people in the Discord.
We know a few people.
A couple peeps.
So if you want to, maybe you want to discuss One Piece, maybe you come on.
Just let us know in the Discord below.
But that won't be for
a couple weeks.
For us, it's not that far. It's like a week.
No, but in podcast form.
In podcast terms,
it's going to be a couple weeks.
It's going to be a couple weeks.
So stay tuned for that.
Yeah, maybe I would say if things go well, a week after this. If things go less well, probably 2-3 weeks after this.
We will talk about is what we're getting at, though.
Yeah. In order, this will come out first.
Yeah, yes, of course.
For
of course. Because there's also a couple of movies that are coming out soon that we're going to have to go see,
movies,
too.
Yeah, there's also the episode talking about Secret Invasion.
Yeah, we got
there's a lot. There's a lot in the pipeline.
Exactly. So
I think we should end it off with a question that is kind of in relation to what we talked about. Not necessarily One Piece.
I think
but adaptations. And that is
it the Eddie question?
Yes, Eddie Bats, E-Bats, who we've had on the podcast twice, technically, if you count our anniversary episode.
Yep.
And who is back streaming and posting content, so
Heck
check him out.
Yeah, he is, E-Bats.
But he asks, which Harry Potter movie/book is the best, and why is it Goblet of Fire? So, I'm going to check this off to say that we have officially answered this question, which, if you didn't know, you can ask us questions on the Discord. So feel free to join our Discord and ask questions in the podcast question corner, where we make sure to check it off so you know that the question has been answered.
Heck yeah.
And although I agree that the best book is Goblet of Fire,
it is not the best movie.
Yes, I was just supposed to, it's not the best movie. They take out a lot.
They do. I mean, Dobby is a big part. Not a big part in Goblet of Fire, but
House Elves.
Yeah, House Elves. That's a whole thing. Goblet of Fire Onward is a big part.
They take out a whole storyline, kind of a like backseat storyline, if you will.
But it's also kind of important.
I wanted to see the Hogwarts kitchen. I feel like we talked about this on the podcast during the Harry Potter episode. We kind of did, but I wanted to see the kitchen.
Exactly.
They didn't even need to have House Elves. They could have been empty.
No, I just want to know.
I just want to see the cool kitchen. But I think Goblet of Fire is my favorite book.
Yep.
It's a little on the longer side, which is hilarious because the next book is my least favorite.
Same.
We just order. Not even question you asked, but that
it's Order of the Phoenix.
Just so you know, Order of the Phoenix. Actually, favorite. Honestly, it might be my least favorite movie and
100%.
least favorite book.
I agree. Both is the correct answer.
But
the worst. Order of
my
the
favorite
Phoenix.
book is Goblet of Fire. I love dragons.
Yep.
It's got a dragon on the cover.
Hungarian
the OG cover.
Houndtown.
The OG cover has a dragon on it.
Heck yeah, it does.
I love dragons. And it's, I don't know, I just really enjoy it. I enjoy some of the character development in that book as well with Harry, Ron. It isn't just, oh, we're friends. Everything's good and, hunky-dory. Friends have fights. Friends have issues.
Yeah, their friendship is very much tested in this story.
Yeah, exactly. And I kind of like that. I like that it isn't just, let's all do what Harry wants. Everything's
No, Ron's like, bro, what if we didn't do what Harry wants? What if I just live my own life?
Which is nice. Some
Like,
nice
it's a fair point.
changes in the story. And my favorite movie is The Prisoner of Azkaban.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
I just think it's really well done. To be fair, it's not a big book, so
No,
to make a 2-hour plus movie,
not hard.
yeah, it feels like you should probably hit all the key facts. And note, there's I'm not going to get into the whole issues with the time travel.
Time turner stuff, yeah.
Yeah, and, some of the massive holes.
Yep.
But as a kid who read the book, watched the movie, I really enjoyed it. I thought it was a pretty well done adaptation. And I really like Sirius Black.
Great character. Gary Oldman did really well, I think. Commissioner Gordon from the Dark Knight trilogy.
Yeah, I really like it.
Okay. That's fair. I'm the same when it comes to the book. Goblet of Fire, hands down, best book. Favorite movie, though, for me is Chamber of Secrets.
Chamber of Secrets.
I don't know what it is about that film. I think it's mostly nostalgia for me. Like, I can quote, like, of the first 4 films, I can quote a lot of random things. But Chamber of Secrets, I think, because of how, I don't want to say more brightened the Philosopher's Stone, Sorcerer's Stone, depending where you're from, is in the movie, where there's like, it's mostly light. Like, Chamber of Secrets, like, starts off kind of.
Yeah, I see where you're coming from. This is the book. One is, you can tell it's like more for kids book.
Yeah. The longer the Harry Potter series goes on, it definitely gets more darker.
But that was definitely shown a tone shift.
Yeah, like there was a huge
quick one.
tone shift. Yeah, because you're like, oh, cool, he's back.
And it's really scary, the whole petrifying.
Yeah,
I remember being, obviously, when this came out, you were young, I was young. I think I saw it with like a school trip, but I was like, I don't know, pretty young, young. And
the whole Basilisk too, like the special effects for that era.
I was scared.
I
was scared of that movie because it was. Like you said, it was a little on the darker tone. The whole petrifying thing kind of creeps you out as a kid, especially just seeing them. The cat.
Exactly.
I remember thinking the cat was just dead. Because I don't think I started reading the books.
Mrs. Norris?
Yeah. I don't think I started reading the books until roughly around book 3.
Okay, yeah.
Where I read 1 to 3. Mostly because you started watching Harry Potter, right?
The hype builds,
Well, and your reading comprehension goes up as well.
Yeah.
Which helps.
True. Yeah.
But that's roughly where 3 and 4 is where I started reading the books more.
Makes sense.
And going through them. Not necessarily all. I wasn't one of the people who like read it on release. Sometimes it'd be more like, oh, I'm going to read it before the movie comes out.
Yeah. Which is fair. That's a lot of people nowadays when it comes to like book adaptations. Chamber of Secrets, I think like the Basilisk looked freaking dope.
Oh, yeah.
A little spooky. I mean, like the screaming book.
A lot of the effects still hold up really well.
Honestly, yeah. Pretty good. I mean, the acting of Ginny, not the best per se, but it also kind of worked with her character a little bit.
Right. Awkward.
And it just has one of my one of the most cringy lines in Harry Potter, in my opinion, when it comes to the movies, is just Arthur Weasley going like, I can't remember exactly how it goes, but like, what is the actual function of a rubber duck? Over at breakfast, they're all just like talking. And he goes, yeah. And the whole like flu powder, and then there's like
there's a lot going on in the movie too. The flying car,
the weird scene when he goes in like
I can't remember what it's called, the letter that yells at you.
Yeah, the howler.
That's funny.
How dare you?
The actress for Ron's mom is fantastic.
Beautiful. Best.
I don't think she could.
Like,
that role was made for her. She did so great.
The line in Deathly Hallows Part 2.
The kind, she looks like this very kind lady, and she is a kind lady to Harry. And then whenever she's mad at her kids,
beautiful,
popping off, and you're like, that's a scary lady.
Well, it's even like the line in Deathly Hallows Part 2 when she takes down Bellatrix. It's the "not my daughter, you bitch." It's just like such an insane line that Molly Weasley says, was just very unexpected. But honestly, I think it was interesting because in the first movie you get introduced to the wizarding world of Harry, right, and that whole thing, and then number 2 with Chamber of Secrets, you get a lot more of this is how some of the people live that are inside the wizarding world and everything like that. And not everything's going to be all nice hunky-dory and stuff, And you get introduced to Dobby as well. which like Dobby's a great character. Like you really get Chamber of Secrets, you really get put into it. Like you said, Flying Car, Dobby.
You really get in the universe.
You get to see more of the magic and stuff too. It's good, and you get a couple more good Quidditch as well.
Quidditch, yep.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, for me, Chamber of Secrets, and then Goblet of Fire for the book.
Okay, yeah, and for me, it's Goblet of Fire for the book, and then Prisoner of Azkaban for the movie. Thanks for the question, Eddie.
Thanks, man.
And if you like what we said, if you guys want to ask us questions, feel free to join our Discord. Also, subscribe to us on YouTube and join all our social media. The link tree will be in the description below. Other than that, have a happy Wednesday or whenever you're listening to this, and we'll see you next week.
Bye.
TNMP, the Nerdy Misfit Podcast. Don't forget to join the island by dropping a follow. Thank you, and see you next week.